a key part of that is also understanding what we're doing out of person and what we're doing out of purpose. Like you say, this whole capitalist way of thinking and those sorts of things, a lot of everything we do is pretty much programmed. Okay. So we're pretty much in a reprogramming phase from everything that has been going on, but we continuously allow them to put us in a position where they are programming us instead of we're living in our purpose.
Welcome, Scouts, to your most recent episode of Local Lookout. My name is Bobby Fryer. I'm your host. Rodney Butler is also a co-host of the show. Rodney, how you doing?
Hey, Bobby, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing absolutely great. It's my favorite time of the year. It's birthday season, and you and I kind of just found out that we absolutely been knowing each other all this time for a couple of few years now, and that we actually share the same birthday, and we celebrated that birthday yesterday. So, man, happy another trip around the moon, trip around the sun, brother.
I knew something cool about you. I couldn't quite put what the finger was, my finger on exactly what it was. But now I find out, brother, we share the same birthday, man. It's a blessing.
It's absolutely a blessing.
Another year around the sun. I'm grateful to God, grateful to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for allowing me to be here. So I don't take 54 years for granted.
Absolutely.
I'm just grateful for every single day. And I'm just grateful to be around good people like yourself on this show. So
ditto, brother. Ditto,
yes,
brother.
sir.
Ditto. It's Pisces season. So look, all right, without further ado, Bobby, because I know that you have an outstanding, very interesting Civics 101 lesson for us tonight, as well as a very, very in-depth hot topic that we're going to talk about. But first, as always, we're going to bring on our special guest tonight, and his name is Kenneth Sober Scooter Reddick II. I think I got everything in there, and he is the CEO, the founder and CEO of the Brothers Brunch Foundation, founded right here out of Douglasville, Georgia, and it is a pleasure to have him on. He's no stranger to the show. Kenneth, Brother Scooter, it is good to have you on again. Brother, how you doing this evening?
Hey man, it is a blessing to be here, especially with two of my Pisces brothers, as I am a March baby as well. So a lot has been already uncovered, and it's a blessing to be here to share a little bit more about what's going on with the Brothers Brunch Foundation.
Absolutely, brother. And look, and your birthday will be celebrated a week from now. So we are the early March Pisces babies. And look, I don't know if I ever been on the show with three Pisces before, so this is going to be a little interesting. So I would tell people, hey, look, sit back. You about to get some. Pisces are known for dropping some knowledge, so you about to get some knowledge tonight. So, but anyway, Kenneth, let us know, man. Let us know about the Brothers Brunch Foundation. We'll start with that, and let's talk. Let's have a conversation.
All right, sounds good. Well, hey, I'm no stranger to the Black Men Roundtable and the conversations here. The Brothers Brunch Foundation, it's not a time to eat but be fed mental health and self-care awareness. We started a little over 2 years ago. We're actually going on 3 years in June. And we have been a nonprofit officially coming up on 2 years. We focus on Black men and breaking the stigma around mental health and self-care. But one of the things that when you mention about myself and being a CEO, my CEO is not that I'm an executive. I'm a conversationalist educating others. And I believe that we're all CEOs. We just have to have these conversations to continue to educate others. And that's where we provide a safe and sacred space for Black men to get together. But also through the work that we've been doing, we've also branched out to do more community events as well.
Go ahead, Ken.
No, and that's been a new venture for us this year. We're actually starting it at the end of last year for Men's Suicide Awareness Month, where we actually brought the community together here in Douglasville. And one of the things that we focus on for our principles are PCP, which is positive, consistent, and present. So anything that the Brothers Brunch Foundation does, for the most part, it will be an annual event, such as we had our third annual Black Man's Holiday Relaxation that went from 8 to 15 to 22 this past year. We had our second annual Black Man Bowl at the Epicenter, which is the last weekend of Black History Month, which, like I said, everything that we do is an annual event. We started at the beginning of the year, starting on Martin Luther King weekend. We did a community-wide event called Sharing Hope in collaboration with the National Alliance for Mental Illness. And we ran that event for 3 consecutive 2 weeks in between intervals. So it went through Black History Month. So pretty much we did mental health events from Martin Luther King through the end of Black History Month. And that is what we are committed to do. We're not just focused on the fellowship. We're about the work that's done after the fellowship. It's one thing to get men together to just have the conversations, but the results comes from the men that need help. Last year, we recommended 20 men that started therapy. This year, we've already had 2 men that started therapy, 1 young man that got his first massage just by seeing Ankh on IG, and another young man that's starting a recovery program this week. And all of these are funded by the Brothers Brunch Foundation. So like I say, many think it's just about getting the Black men together, but our true work that is being done is actually getting the men kick-started on a new mental health and self-care journey. And that's where Brothers Brunch Foundation success has been thus far.
Absolutely, man. And I've seen you do the work in the community. I come to, when I get a chance, my schedule is crazy, but when I get a chance, that I'm going to be at an event that you put on. I seen you and I kind of started out about the same time, me with this Black Man's Roundtable journey and you with the Brothers Brunch Foundation. And so that's why the amount of time we've been around is about similar. And we met each other when we were just trying to get things going. And look, man, I think both initiatives that are aimed at both initiatives, meaning what you try to do and we try to do here at the Black Man's Roundtable, along with Bobby and bringing people on like Bobby Fryer, has we've focused on to try to get Black men where we think they need to be to come out of the shadows, and some of those ones that maybe need to be put in some shadows sometimes. We've that's what we've been doing, man. And so
Yeah.
I it's been great watching you grow, watching your organization grow, watching you become incorporated in the whole 9 yards. So it's been real good watching.
It has been, and Rodney, to that point, like you say, you have been there since the beginning because, you were around when I did my first cleanup on Chapel Hill Road.
Yeah.
And who would have known that there would be 3 signs up now, 2 city signs and 1 county sign that actually shows the representation and the work that Brothers Brunch Foundation is doing in the community. And you were there, and I want to say thank you for that, because a lot of times we don't take the time to just recognize how brothers have supported us, because we always want them to just be just support. So I'm proud of the work that you've done as well. And that's the thing. We have to feed into our brothers and truly meet them where they are. We don't, I have a saying that's on a shirt that says support is not prevention. And a lot of times we think that supporting each other is preventing them or telling them what to do. But the more that we meet each other where they are, and that doesn't just go with the brothers, that goes with our kids as well. And that's where now I've even stepped out even more outside of the Brothers Brunch Foundation. And I'm a certified peer specialist, parent certified. That's where I'm able to assist and support parents that also have children that may have been suffering from mental health or mental illnesses. And one thing I always say is all of us have some type of PTSD, and it's called parenting, because most of our parenting is done out of traumas. Most of our coaching is done out of trauma. And until we heal, and even if we don't heal as men, if we don't give our children the opportunity to heal, then we're just going to continue to birth generations and generations of trauma. And what Brothers Brunch Foundation is realizing is that it's not the kids, it's not the social media. We've birthed this trauma into our kids and it's come to a head. And until we have that shift as men to be the leaders and be those spiritual leaders, then we're going to continue to birth this trauma. And we have to break that stigma because, like my shirt says, therapy is therapeutic and not problematic.
Absolutely.
So at Brothers Brunch Foundation, we push therapy heavy because that is our true life coach that's already paid for. But also on top of that, that's our kids' life coach. And we as men need coaching not only for ourselves, but to better our families and ultimately our communities.
Okay, well, Kenneth, let me ask you this quick question: Is I know that you're out, like I said, you're out in the community, you're out there. I see you everywhere. People see you everywhere. And what are some of the trends? What are some of the trends specifically with Black men in mental health? It could be in general as well if that's where you need to go, but specifically in Black men that you have noticed or seeing either a rise in, which would be, I guess not a very good thing, or a decline in, which would be a good thing. Just tell us, what have you been seeing out in the, out in the environment with Black men and mental health?
That's a great question because me being a 3-time suicide survivor,
Yep.
I've seen a rise in suicide amongst Black men, and the statistics show it.
Yep.
One of the reasons why is because we as Black men, Black people, and even people in general, when we hear mental health, we think of mental illness. And because we don't take care of our mental health and use the tools and resources that we have, there's been a rise of mental illness all the way around. But as I mentioned before, until we realize that it's not always the externals, that it's the internals that we have to heal from, then we're going to continue to see rises in all categories of mental illness, substance abuse, suicide, in those categories. That's why I do the work that I do. That's why when I mentioned I'm a 3-time suicide survivor, and I can say I was a 30-year alcoholic, and my 8-year-old son would sit and say, my daddy is 3-year alcoholic free. That's the change in the narrative. And we're going to continue to see a rise on all levels until we have that shift, as I like to say, because sometimes change can seem so hard. We got to change the verbiage sometimes, just to make sure that we're able to reach the people. And that's the way that I'm able to reach the youth. Whereas if we don't change our minds as men and be the mentors that we're supposed to be, and not just the man in a child's life, then the rise is going to keep happening. And pretty soon, we're going to be flooded out.
Absolutely. Look, okay, before we get Bobby in here, we're actually going to get Bobby in here, see if Bobby got anything for you. I'm going to may ask you one more thing about community as far as Black men, or have that discussion, have that conversation for the three of us before we let you out of here, and before you let the people know, what you got going on and what you're doing. So please stay tuned for that. Bobby, you got anything for Kenneth, brother?
Absolutely. First and foremost, let me just say to you, Kenneth, thank you for this work that you're doing. Brother, I'm glad you're here. Let me just say that also as well. But I think mental health is something that a lot of us as men don't like to talk about, and you've laid it out beautifully as to what exactly that means. But the mere talk about mental health, at times, we as men can look at it, or the old school way is like you're mentally weak. What do you mean mental health? What do you mean, you can't handle stuff? Our shoulder's supposed to be big enough to handle anything. But I think you've laid it out eloquently as to what mental health actually means. And we as men, for one, and then especially on top as Black men, the amount of stress that we deal with on a daily basis that I don't think no other race or gender can ever say they deal with more stress than being a Black male. That is unequivocally something that can't be denied, in my opinion. But I think the work that you're doing is fantastic. We need it. We need more advertisement for it because we're dealing with some stressors right now in our current environment, and going forward, we're going to have our mental health on track. And the work that you're doing is something that is absolutely vital. And I just want to tell you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And one of the things that you mentioned and that I briefly touched on is once we define mental health versus mental illness and realize that there are tools just like anything else to assist us with our mental health, then a change can be made. But there is that perception there. Um, I was actually honored by the National Parents Union and educational entities for Fatherhood Black Male Educator Engagement Award. I'm not an educator, but like I said, I'm a conversationalist educating others, and they see the work and the impact. So one of the things I'd say that I have started to do as well, not specifically under Brothers Brunch Foundation, but at my son's school, is taking a proactive approach to specifically get the dads together. I call it dads opening doors because it's opening doors to education, mental health literacy, sports wellness, those sorts of things. But the thing about it is the dads have to be involved so that they can have a different mindset. But to your point, yes, we as Black men have a lot of stress. But we as Black men have to understand too how much of that stress is internal that is passed on from us from the previous generations of stress. We can have a whole nother segment on the cage versus the uncaged eggs. We want to go into the grocery store and buy the uncaged eggs. It doesn't have the hormones. We as Black men are the caged eggs. And we just giving each other from birth. If we don't heal the next generation is going to birth a whole nother level of stress. So it's the understanding. And that's why I speak out the way that I do about my mental health struggles of being bipolar, of being an alcoholic, of anxiety and depression. Because once I speak out, guess what? People open up. Men feel as though they can talk. We need more men talking about it. And there are other spaces besides Brothers Brunch Foundation. I don't think Brothers Brunch Foundation is the end all. We are a tool and a resource for Black men, and we also assist, support, and promote other Black men's organizations. Because it's not about alignment all the time, it's about collaboration. And that's what we have to realize. It ain't about who's doing what. It's about what we can do together. And once we as Black men come to that conclusion, then we start some mental health healing. We gotta get outside of ourselves, but then realize internally what's going on inside of ourselves.
Absolutely. And look, also, it's a great segue because, like I said, I want to talk about community and let the three of us have that kind of conversation. And everything you talked about, even Bobby, with his summary and his question that he had for you, or actually his statement, is great. And like I said, it segues right into community. What we're talking about. We're talking about Black men coming together, right? Black men doing things, coming out of the shadows and all of that, right? And so, but I just want to say that, like you talked about the caged egg and the uncaged egg, at one of your events, I got on my soapbox, man, about epigenetics. You remember that?
Yeah.
I had you to write it down. I had you put it all up on the board so the young people can see it. I had them doing the algorithms on their phone to look it up so they can start getting that stuff. You remember that? And so, those are some of the things that we need to talk a little bit more about, man. About how trauma is absolutely passed down through our genetic pool. So, but again, that's a whole nother show. And like I said, said, I was so glad that you were so supportive, and also understanding, and also just backing me up with that whole epigenetics thing, man. That
Oh yeah.
event that you did, and the
Oh yeah.
kids, I think they really got it. They were
Hmm.
just like, wow. So now, they don't, it's like, so that's why I've been feeling this way like all my life. And I was wondering where it come from and that kind of thing. So,
Hmm.
so I think we need to definitely talk about that. But community,
Yes.
you know, so in order, I think, look, I'm a firm believer in, I got a couple of business degrees or whatever, so I understand capitalism, right? I just want to
Mhm.
make sure people know I do understand capitalism. However, I think that we need to shift in the black community. With, of course, black men are normally, usually, the head of households. We are, the patriarchs of our community, and
Hmm.
so I think that we need to start shifting from. I'm not saying don't teach what capitalism is. We live in a capitalist society, so we have to work within the boundaries of it. But I
Right.
think that we really, really need to interject a lot of community
Hmm.
in the teachings of
Yes.
capitalism, because
Yes.
just like they say, right, you can go fast alone, but you can go far, together. And so
Exactly.
I want for you to start out, Kenneth, talking to us about the importance that you feel community is, as far as especially black men coming together, because we know that we are targeted right now under all the kind of different, business climate, community climate, political climates, and everything that we have going on. We are the targets. Now, like they say, I guess the new saying is, when America get the flu, black folks get COVID. So
Mhm.
what I want for you to do is we know that black men got to be sober, right, in order to lead in in our community. And I
Mhm.
want you to start out kind of talking to us about community and the importance of black men coming and pulling our people back together, our young women, our young children, and
Mhm.
our women,
Yeah,
and leading that way.
that's good. That's good because one of the things that we have to realize is that we have to reunite and reclaim our tribes and villages. Okay. A key part of that is also understanding what we're doing out of person and what we're doing out of purpose. Like you say, this whole capitalist way of thinking and those sorts of things, a lot of everything we do is pretty much programmed. Okay. So we're pretty much in a reprogramming phase from everything that has been going on, but we continuously allow them to put us in a position where they are programming us instead of we're living in our purpose. Um, we could go to a biblical standpoint of what I get to all the time about the only place it says the man is the head. So when you talk about that, the man is the head is in the Bible. That's where it originates from.
Right.
So as you're talking about a sober mind, we have to understand that as we are as men, as that last part, positive, consistent, and present, we have to remain present to ourselves first. As my little boy, as we were talking about regrounding in the car today, he said, Daddy, just like you say, you put your oxygen mask on first. He's been around me enough. Those are the things that normally we don't keep our kids around certain conversations. But what conversations are we having? So the way that we handle ha- being the man, being the head, is to include our families and our children in all of our conversations for them to learn, but don't have those conversations that we don't need them to be around. I learned. I didn't do the same way with my 25-year-old. I was there, but I wasn't present. But I had to learn to be present for myself first. So community is very important, but we got to be present for ourselves. Then we have to be present for our families and then be present for a community. And that brings us back to Brothers Brunch Foundation is that we're helping men and supporting men to be better mentors because we're putting men in places they don't understand really what the village and community is about for leadership. And until we do that work to lead and be honest with ourselves, ain't gonna be no community because everybody focused on the external capitalism versus the capitalism, the wealth of family and community. They're so much greater. We weren't about what they taking out of stores. We should have been supporting our stores. We worried about what's in schools. I was guilty, but guess what? I just bought my son 4 African American books, and he loves Black Boy Joy. We have to take ownership of our families and our community, but we worried about what they're doing. What are we truly doing for us? Let's have that conversation one day.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Bobby, anything?
Listen, I'm sitting here, Kenneth. You're hitting home runs with every swing on things that you're stating. So I know the mental aspect of it. When you talk about being present, it's being present for yourself. It's being present for your children. It's being present in the community as well. If you're going to talk about these kind of things, you have to be the example that you want to see set forward. It's not about getting perfect people. I think a lot of times people are looking for perfection in people. You're never going to find it. Everybody has flaws. Everybody has something in their background. And hey, I fell victim to this. What have you? It's not about being so judgmental. And a lot of times I think that affects our mental health because we're so judgmental on this person and that person that you don't find time to just love, for one, yourself, that you're always looking for perfection in other people that you can't even find within yourself. So why are you expecting it out of someone else? And all it does is just create divisiveness and more stress, as you mentioned, is on your mental health. So I can only be, the best example I can be is as a husband, as a father, as a brother, as a fraternity brother. The list goes on and on. As a family member, as a friend, as a neighbor, that's the best example I can be, in terms of what I am asked to do. And all these mental stressors on us as a community, and we've said this already, it falls on our shoulders. And so we have to wake up daily with that fight, daily when our feet hit the floor, with God's blessing, when our feet hit the floor from rising up out of our beds and our eyes waking up. That's going to hit us. Yes. How we deal with it on the daily is how we get through. And so it's positive. It's great when you have a community of brothers that understand that and understand the work that you're doing and what you are imploring us to do. It is helpful. It's needed. It's necessary. So you're just hitting. I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there because I'm a believer of giving people their flowers while they're here. So I want to let you know, Mr. Reddick, Kenneth Reddick II. I'm gonna call your name out. I appreciate the work that you're doing, and I just want to say thank you because a lot of times people do things and don't get a simple thank you for the work that they're doing, and just continue to build off of what you're doing because you are being a blessing in the work that you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you. And Bobby, if I could just say one thing that you just said about that perfection part. We have to realize healing is a journey. Through everything I've been through, I can't be complacent that I'm healed. I have to continue to do the work every single day because a setback, is what I call it, versus a trigger, can come anytime. So if I don't continue to do the conditioning for myself every day, if I don't continue to listen to my meditation music at night, every night, so that my mind can be clear, so that I can receive my instructions through my dreams and not be cloudy by everything else and wake up with clear instructions from spirit to mind to body and not mind, body, spirit, then that's what gives me the peace to do what I do. And that's why I share with brothers everywhere I go, because once we reprogram ourselves, simple things like spirit, mind, body, person versus purpose, how we think about things and how we speak of things is how they're manifested. And every word we speak, as someone once said, is a prayer. And that's how I speak every day. And I watch my words a lot differently than what I used to. Yeah. So thank you all so much for having me on here. Hey, give y'all selves some flowers too, because the work that you are doing and bringing this to not the city, but the world is so key to the progress of the black man.
Absolutely, brother. And look, again, man, that's the whole, like I talked about in the beginning, we both kind of started these journeys, about 3 years ago, a little under 3 years ago, something like that. And with the focus on black men. And so, we are, in my opinion, the first men of the world. And so the bottom line is no one would admit it, but everybody looked to us to lead the way. I promise you that. And we've been having a lot of discussion, open discussion, on TV and other kind of mediums here lately, social media, about, the culture, the culture, all, how it's celebrated, African-American culture all around the world. Even Africans celebrate the African-American culture, right? We've been hearing a lot of that kind of stuff lately. But look, they want to kind of box that culture into, our arts, right? But I promise you, they know the deal. It's way more than that. So we just gotta take the bull back by the horn. I think that we're doing it with small little things like local stuff that we're doing, and and people are starting to learn the importance of these nonprofit organizations like you're running that's not attached with some of our national NAACP or Urban League or whatever. It's just these guys are out here doing the stuff on their own without any attachment, and also these very small podcasts like what we do here. And so people realizing the importance of it. But before we let you go and you let the folks know what some of the things that you may have coming up, Kenneth, I want to say that you brought up something about buying a grocery store or something, and it just made me think about how I think it was just yesterday how the talk was about community. Of course, I talk a lot about community, and us growing our own food and all this stuff and buying from our own folks and farmers and local people and that kind of thing, right? And I just want to say that I gave this person this website, and it's called it's really the Black Farmers Index, right? And you can look all over the country. Black Farmers Index, you can look all over the country, and I think Georgia is region 4, and it'll give you every single black farmer in America. If you put in Georgia, which is region 4, it literally, there's so many here in Metro Atlanta that they literally give you every single farmer and what they sell directly to you and what they produce, whether it's beef farmers or whether it's eggs and all this other kind of stuff. So I just wanted to reiterate what when you talked about that we have the things we need in our community. We just need to talk to each other and let them know that they are there.
Exactly.
So instead of recreating the wheel, like you're saying, a lot of people are doing a lot of things, but don't worry about what the next person is doing. But do if you're going to start something. If you're going to start something, say, what, is it already out there? And if something like that is very similar already out there, go support that brother. Go support that sister. And let's not, have a bunch of us, competing, and then we end up becoming crabs in a barrel. Terms I don't like to use that because why the hell
I get
crab,
it.
why is it in the barrel anyway? It's not supposed to be there. But
I was use the word right out my mouth. That's another conversation. Yeah.
But anyway, hey, like I promised them, man, you got a bunch of. Hey, I don't know if I've ever been on a show with 3 or more Pisces, so I told them you're gonna get it. So look, Kenneth, before we let you go, man, you can close out your segment, brother, but definitely before you close it all the way out, let us know any projects or things that you have coming up in the next couple of weeks, the very near future, so people can can see what your work is all about.
All right. Well, look here. It's Pisces season, and since I retired in December, I have not taken a break. So the next few weeks, you probably won't find me too many places. But I am supporting the R&B Soul Healing Picnic in Atlanta. So I'm assisting them with setting up a wellness tent with some therapists and those sorts of things. Which hey, it's going to be in Atlanta, but then I'll also possibly be going to North Carolina with them Father's Day weekend. But we will have in April, the last Saturday of April, we're planning our first holistic wellness fair downtown Douglasville. So stay tuned. We also will have our annual BIPOC Health and back to school fair coming up in July. We're going to throw in a hike and healing and a couple other things, for the men in between. But every second Tuesday, please tap in to the Tuesday night talks. We usually have a different topic of conversation, but the thing about it is we don't have to be rigid, because the whole thing about it is brothers coming together to support each other. So it's not about me in a presentation. It's always about the conversations. But you can always check at www.brothersbrunchfoundation.com. You can find me on IG at Brothers Brunch Foundation Inc. If you want to check out more about what Sober Scooter has going on, you can check out Sober Scooter as well, because there's some other things that'll be happening around peer support that I'll be doing outside of Brothers Brunch Foundation. But then Facebook, Brothers Brunch Foundation Inc. And men, if you don't want to miss an event, definitely go to Eventbrite. We are on Eventbrite. We are official. We don't run no janky promotions. We are truly out here trying to make sure that the word is spread, and we do a lot of collaborations and posting of other spaces for men to be able to be a part of almost every day of the week, even when we're not doing anything. So we are truly focused on the healing. Well, let me put it this way: mending, healing, and feeling a difference. We always talk about the mending and healing, but we need to talk more about what that feels like, especially for yourself. So remember, find out you're okay, because it's okay to not be your okay. Thank you.
Once again, Kenneth, brother, it's been a pleasure. Can't wait to get you back on. We're busy with our special guests, but look, my goal is to get you back on before it even think about starting to get cool again. So that's the goal, brother. So anyway, man, we appreciate you. Just outstanding, I guess, conversation tonight, and and looking forward to the next one, man. So
all right, appreciate you all. Y'all have a blessed one, and thanks again.
You too,
peace,
Kenneth.
You be good, brother.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Bobby.
That was terrific.
Yeah, man. Kenneth, this guy, like I said, Pisces season, man, but this guy is, I've just watched him grow. I've watched, what he's done in the community. I was just so impressed, like I said, with his brother. We met at I think it was a political event back when Warnock, I think, was running or something. And, I just felt a need to go up and introduce myself to him and stuff like that, man. And I've supported this brother with what he's doing, trying to do with black men in the community, since then. But Bobby, I know we have a Civics 101 that you're going to drop some stuff on, and we have a hot topic that we're going to close out the show with. So without further ado, Bobby, get on to this Civics 101, brother.
Well, first of all, again, we'll thank Kenneth for an outstanding segment with him and a lot of important information. So really appreciate him coming on. And yeah, we definitely want to get him back on soon.
Yes, sir.
On to the hot topic, the Civics 101 section of the show. We're going to talk about tariffs. And we've mentioned this before. Tariffs is a big deal, obviously. Tariffs being imposed on Canada and Mexico, as well as other countries. But specifically, we're going to talk about the impact of tariffs, how it will have an impact on the economy, who pays them. So let's get right into it.
Yes, sir.
Most people don't understand or think that tariffs is a tax on us as consumers. How does that work? The tariffs that we levy on other countries are paid by American companies. Okay. It's not paid by the country of origin that we're levying taxes on. All right. It's paid by American companies on those products that we received as imports. Okay. So for example, the tariffs that are being imposed on things that we are absolutely relying upon in this country. The American company that is receiving those products that are a result of tariffs, they have two choices. Either they adjust the cost onto American consumers based on what they have to pay. Anytime we're in a capitalistic society, and anytime that things are raised on the company on the company that is paying for tariffs or something like that, it's passed on to us as consumers. All right. So they either have a choice to raise their prices or to accept less profitability. This is a capitalistic society, people. When do you see companies say, yeah, we're going to make less money this year voluntarily on the American people? That doesn't happen. Okay. So we know where it's going to go. It's going to go in the form of higher prices. With Mexico, for example, I wanted to make sure I put down and gave specifics on tariffs coming out of Mexico. They're the largest supplier of fruits and vegetables to the United States. Number one being avocados. So when we're levying tariffs on companies like on countries, I'm sorry, get my tongues crossed. On countries like Mexico, you will feel that in the grocery stores, right? And we go back to this because I heard so many people around election time talking about the cost of eggs, talking about lowering the price of groceries, right? You're doing the exact opposite right now. That's what you're doing. You may not feel it immediately. You're going to feel it going forward. Okay. As it pertains to Canada, we export a lot of, Canada, we bring in a lot of grain, livestock, meat, poultry, oil, all those things coming from Canada that we're levying on. Alcohol. So the cost of your favorite drink is gonna increase exponentially. And Canada is being very strategic about stuff that they're not buying from America anymore. They're boycotting themselves. So with our two probably most important allies, especially on this continent, we've now fractured the relationship and gotten into a trade war with them. And American consumers will feel the effects of it. It's been talked about numerous times. So when we talked about inflation going up under the last administration, which people were totally devoid of just using their own common sense after living through a pandemic, a global pandemic, as it pertained to inflation and how the cost rose up from that. That was a central issue in the election from 2024. Well, we don't hear as much now, from people that were so adamant about it. And I even saw something today because I have not been watching a lot of news on television, but I saw an interview today with someone that was specifically mentioned how, well, we're going to give this administration time. Well, how is that you giving this administration time? But then when the last administration actually brought down inflation from what happened at the beginning of the term, when inflation costs rose due to, again, primarily because of the pandemic, you didn't want to recognize the progress that had been done since then. Inflation was under 3%, which is what triggered a federal rate cut last fall. Now, going forward, that federal rate cut is stagnated. They may just keep them the same. But it's funny, and what you're learning is the Fed will take action to a rate cut based on bad things that have happened. That's something that I've, of course, have learned based on bad things. So if unemployment rises, which is, we've seen a lot of federal workers getting laid off. So as unemployment rises, it may actually trigger a federal rate cut. But again, now you have people losing their jobs. And with inflation going higher because of tariffs and other things, right? So what are you really doing? If you're putting more people out of the workforce and the cost of prices are going up for products like, for example, from China, where you're buying a lot of electronics, where a lot of your apparel, shoes, things like that, necessities, other than, we can say electronics may or may not be necessities, depending on what you get, appliances, so forth, all those type of things. If that's going up, how is that going to help the American economy? How is it? It's the exact opposite of what you said you were voting for. And when you hear people now just falling back and really trying to assuage why they voted for the way that they did, and when you see things go in the exact opposite direction, just be honest. Just be honest with yourself in terms of what's happening. So I don't want to go too much into me just rambling on, but I want to get your thoughts, Rodney.
Yeah, so I've never fallen for the whole it's the economy, stupid. I've never fallen for that.
Mm-hmm.
This is America. I know better. I know better than that. And so if it was about the economy, there would be a January 6th style event going on in Washington right now, with the prices of every single thing just going crazy. And, it's crazy how, the other side like to, blame the president when the stock market, goes nuts and starts to go down, knowing full well that the president does not control or drive the stock market. I'm not saying the president don't have any bearing on what the stock market is doing, because you can say some crazy, silly stuff, and you can really affect. You can spook people, and so. But I say that to say that in recent history, the two times, from my memory, the two times that the stock market has basically gone down the most in a 1 day period was both under Trump. This, just yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, and then one time when he was when he was president the first time. So, but on tariffs, Bobby, I want to talk about that. Or I want you to. So my understanding of tariffs are that for those people that say, well, tariffs can be effective, they're effective, and all that. Yeah, they can be effective if they are targeted tariffs,
right?
Specific, but blanket global tariffs has never, and it don't even follow the logic, like you're saying, in a capitalist society, that a global tariff can in any kind of way be of benefit. But from my understanding, it is the like I said, the targeted tariffs on specific services, products, or goods, or whatever. Well, goods anyway. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more, Bobby?
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because if you're just doing a blanket tariffs on everything coming from one country, right?
From one country, exactly.
Yeah, you're what you're doing is you're stagnating. Especially the economy, it's not effective. So, for example, I'm gonna give you an example of what tariffs should do. What they're designed to do is really supposed to stimulate more American manufacturing for that specific industry, right? So, if you're just doing a blanket one, it's not helping that, right? Because now what you're doing is, as a result of all of these mass deportations that you've done, you've basically taken some of the workforce away. And for those that you think is just going to stimulate American growth in that area, or whether it's going to have more American workers in that area, because more American workers don't see that as a wage increase. And when you're doing something that a lot of people don't want to do, i.e. clean up the rooms at a hotel, pick the fruit from fields, etc., those type of things, where are you filling those jobs? So again, just to answer your question though, it's supposed to stimulate manufacturing in that particular industry. That's what it should do, right? But when you're doing blanket 25% tariffs on a particular country on everything, you're what you're going to do is that they're going to try to flip this into being like, well, look at the amount of money we've got from tariffs, right? That's what they're going to do. They're going to say, well, look at all of what we created here. And then it's the same thing when they go through their budget cuts and they try to tell you what is deemed to be quote unquote waste, right? But you're not dealing with the real issues of, and I'm going to jump to this, budget cuts, which is the biggest thing that we pay is the interest on the debt. Right. Yep. And all you're doing is adding to the debt. Right. The second one is actually defense spending. Right. Yep. And in this proposal that the next Republican budget proposal has, it calls for an increase of $300 billion, if I'm not mistaken, in defense spending. So you're going to make those cuts where after that? Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security? That's what's next on the chopping block.
Yes, sir.
And so they're disguising these things as, oh, we got all this waste and this fraud going on and this and that. And it's not adding up. The numbers are not adding up to what they're allegedly trying to get to. I'm bringing this up because they're going to try to somehow substitute the amount of tariffs as a revenue source to basically add into the American economy what we've generated from this, and it's nowhere close to what they're claiming they want to get to as far as budget cuts, which we all know is really just another way of getting another tax cut for the super wealthy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And also, I don't know if they expected it or not, but it looked like Mexico and Canada did a little clapback on this terrorist situation. So they need to be prepared for that. And at the end of the day, Bobby, when we're talking, whether we're talking about before we move, because you already kind of set up perfectly the hot topic, from our Civics 101. But I do want to say that that consumer confidence, man, is what drives every single thing. You and I have talked about it right here on this podcast, is that you can look at all the indexes you want. You can look at everything. You can just pull out the capitalist manual, how to do for dummies or whatever. And at the end of the day, it is strictly about consumer confidence, and consumer confidence was up big time in the last administration. You and I talked about that. We were traveling, the airports were full, the train stations were full. Yep. Everybody was just buying stuff, all of the what is it, the Black Fridays and all. We talked about it on here, Bobby.
Yep.
But I tell you what, that consumer confidence is dropping like a hot potato right now. And so we'll just see, though. We're not trying to be negative Nancy or nothing on here, but the bottom line is it is what it is, and we're not bought and paid for on the Black Man's Roundtable. So you and I get to just say what it is. There's no commercials or anything. There's no ads running on the Black Man's Roundtable. And that's what we plan on keeping it all private funded. And so guess what? We're going to tell the truth. And the bottom line is we're not trying to be negative Nancy's, but it is looking a lot like not Christmas out there, I tell you that. So, but anyway, Bobby, we got about good 10 more minutes before we get to that hour. We know people start fading out a little bit after that. So, let's jump right into you already set it up perfectly anyway. Let's jump right into our hot topic today, brother.
The hot topic is American foreign policy. And, you and I can both speak to our experience in American foreign policy as it relates to the military.
Yes, sir.
I served in the United States Army Reserve. I was in college at the time. When I joined, I was 19 years old. So I spent the last teenage years of my life and into my good 20s as a member of the United States Army. You have experience as well. And we know there are certain things that the United States is not going to separate itself from. I.e. some of these things that we've experienced as far as, well, let's bring up Israel, for example. Mm-hmm. You're talking about over 70 plus years of us propping up and funding Israel. Okay, good or bad, you have your own opinion on that, but somehow people wanted Vice President Kamala Harris in the amount of time she had to run for president, which was 3 months, to somehow change American foreign policy that's been in place for over 70 plus years. We had these protesters that were so 10 toes down on what's going on in Palestine and in Gaza and Genocide Joe and so on and so forth. And I've always said what angers me the most as a black man, and then I'm going to bring this back to American foreign policy. Mm-hmm. What has angered me the most about that is that if that's your stance, okay, I want you to have that same energy for what is happening in Haiti, the Sudan, and the Congo. And you don't talk about it. It's not mentioned. You don't have the same energy. You have a civil war going on. You have people dying of starvation in these other countries. You have the same type of trauma going on that was happening in Gaza, in these other countries where we are the predominant majority. Okay.
And Bobby, not to cut you off, but look, I knew you was, because that's your passion. You're going to talk about what's going on in these S-hole country, what Donald Trump called S-hole countries. I already know you're going to bring it, and you're going to bring that up. But look, Bobby, not only are those, where are those people when it come down to what's going on in Haiti and all the other places you mentioned? Look at here, Bobby, those jokers don't even, where are they even with Gaza now?
Right.
They just disappear, brother. You know what I'm saying? So you know they're not going to be there for Haiti and all this stuff. There's not even. So I guess it depends on, you know, who's in the White House as to how much they're going to protest. Where are those protesters now? But go ahead, Bobby.
And no. Just to piggyback your point, if you notice, this is something to me I noticed as a contradiction. Okay, I was there for Kamala Harris's first visit when she was first announced as the new Democratic nominee for president when she came to Atlanta. And there were protesters outside, right? Fine. You know, you want to protest, fine, so be it. And I noticed something. Why are there so many protesters when it's a Democrat running for office, but you don't see that same energy on the Republican side? Why are y'all showing up so loud and so emphatically when a Democrat is having a rally? But I don't see y'all when it comes to the Republican side. So Bobby, what you're conceding,
you know, Bobby, I want to add this. Mm-hmm. So like you said, there's all these protests when it's a Democrat, all right, and then but you don't see the energy on the other side when it's a Republican, right? But look, those same people who protest and come out and protest when a Democrat is doing something, you know, silly or something that they don't like you said, they're everywhere. You can't count them. But then when a Republican does it, if those people are progressives or whatever that are protesting the Democrat, where are those same progressives when it's a Republican?
You should be doing the same energy. You should be doing the same thing. Same energy. Yep.
It's amazing, man. Go ahead, Bobby.
No, I mean, you just made my point, which is the same energy should be there. You should have the same mentality. You should want the same result. That's it. So what you're doing is you're conceding, because a lot of people say, well, both parties don't care. Well, why is it that you're picking one to protest and not the other when you should be doing both? You ought to be able to have it as a serious topic and something that is passionate within you, that it shouldn't matter which party is in power. Yep. You should be doing it with the same energy for both if you truly want change. If not, you're basically conceding that you only see one side to have a chance to even make any impact with. And I'm always trying to basically get, as far as my efforts are concerned, I'm always trying to get people to basically see, like, don't you see, you have to have the same energy for something that you truly believe in, i.e. reparations is another one. You don't hear anybody now talking about reparations. Why is that? Why? If it's that important of a topic to you, and I'm certainly not against reparations, okay? I've always said define it, okay? If you say you want it, define what it means to you, because I can tell you chapter and verse what I think should happen in terms of it, right? And for me, it does not involve cutting me a check, okay? We can talk about that another topic on another day. But if you have the same passion for it, then you should be fighting for it no matter who is in office. And you just get eerily quiet. You get as quiet as a mouse pissing on carpet, pissing on cotton. You've heard that before.
Yep.
You know, when it comes to the other side, and you definitely don't see anything being discussed now with this administration in place on the MAGA side of things. So where are you? But let's get back to foreign policy. I know I got on a little rant there.
It's okay.
Back to foreign policy. I'm gonna give you a quick example because of something that happened. Obviously, with the meeting with Trump and Zelensky and Vance. It was a disgusting display of really just a setup of a foreign leader that is supposed to be our ally. You put the cameras out there to try to emasculate him. And this man is the leader of a country at war. And he's literally been there fighting on behalf of his country. He didn't leave. Okay. So you can try to display this show of strength and force as far as like, you never heard another president sit there in front of cameras and talk about you're playing with World War III. Why are you even talking about a world war? Right? We don't have any troops there. You know, we don't have troops from Europe that are, you know, flying in and stationing themselves there. Why are you talking about a world war at all? you're repeating the same propaganda that Putin wants you to repeat.
Yep.
So in terms of foreign policy, I'm gonna give this example, and we can give plenty of them, but I'm gonna give the example from my personal experience. When I left in July of 1990 to join the military, I don't want to say there was nothing going on. Of course, there was something going on, but there wasn't any huge world conflicts going on at the time. And it wasn't 2 weeks into basic training when Iraq invaded Kuwait. And I remember standing there in formation, listening to our first sergeant explain the ramifications of that. And I'm thinking to myself, because I'm young and just a teenager, okay, what they got to do with us? You know, what does that have to do with us? And then in my mind, as I'm thinking that, they're saying, well, we have oil reserves there. They're digging in. We want them out. We're going to war. Just like that. And I remember thinking to myself, like, what did he just say? What did he just say? So I spent the rest of basic training and my school at AI, my AIT schooling, because I didn't leave. We didn't have basic training and then go back and then come back for 8. No, ours was 20 weeks straight. Same drill sergeants, etc. And it just so happened that my MOS was specifically what they needed going over there. So the likelihood that we were told that we were going to go over there was pretty high, So upon graduating, 3 days I had to report to my unit. And I remember being told the first day I was there was that they were going to take so many E4s on down. I was just an E3. E4s on down to go connect with another unit, and we were going to go get our equipment and start training to get ready to go over. And I showed up the next day expecting the worst. And we were not activated at that time. So I showed up expecting the worst, and nothing happened. But the war started a few weeks later. That was the whole shock and awe scenario that President Bush at the time went ahead and done. So the bottom line is, we know that anytime that American interest is at play and our so-called defense of democracy, we get involved on the world stage and we send American troops to fight. And here we are now with someone that is basically at the negotiating table bargaining with someone during a period of war, and you're calling them a dictator, and you're using language that only exacerbates the situation. It only amplifies the opportunity for war. Now, they're going to say it's a negotiation ploy to get what they want at the negotiating table. But you're asking a leader of a sovereign nation to basically just give up land that is theirs. And I don't see that happening if Russia decided to take Alaska back, or if they decide to take a Canadian province. Just say, just let them have it. But somehow in this negotiation, and I know there's a mineral deal that is at play as well, you want them to just concede and give up things that's rightfully theirs so that it can be stolen by another nation. It puts a target on all of our backs. When people, as you mentioned before, you're losing faith in the airline industry with air travel. When you want to travel abroad, it only creates more terror cells internally and externally against the United States, because they feel like you won't even honor an agreement that you had with Ukraine to protect them from an arms deal that we agreed with them to basically for them to denuke themselves. So all you're doing is creating much distrust amongst other allies that are on our side or were on our side, that if we're ever under attack, if some missile lands over here, God forbid, I don't know what the reaction may be from our allies. They may be like, hey, you're on your own. And that's pretty much where we're headed right now. So what do you think?
First of all, when we talk about foreign policy, there have been so many things done in such a short period of time. And Bobby, like you and I are obviously both veterans, United States Army veterans. And, that debacle that was put on the other day, at the White House with Zelensky, right now, our allies, they have lost every bit of confidence in us as the United States and the global power that we at least espouse to be. You know, you're nothing without your allies in this global economy, but also this global, what could be a global war zone, because there's nobody's out of reach.
That's right.
So there is no, they can't get over here or they can't send something over here. And so the morale, in the military has got to be at some of its lowest right now when you are taking a 4-star general and replacing him with a 3-star known buffoon. Yes, what it proves is that you and I know, people say, well, if you started having stars on your on your collar in the military, then you got to be like the best of the best. Well, we're learning that favoritism and all this other kind of stuff and DEI, but not diversity, equity, and inclusion, but the DEI didn't earn it kind of DEI
Right.
is what is in the military is affected by that as well. But when you take a black 4-star general that you actually put in place, if I remember correctly, and then tell him he got to go because of what is perceived to be racism or anti-blackness, in my opinion, and put this guy there, this 3-star, it's got to hurt. But also, you take this Pete Sec, whatever his name, Hexick, you take this guy, who was a known buffoon while he was in the military, and with anti, with some very questionable body art going on with him,
tattoos,
yes, tattoos, and the morale. As like I said, being veterans, Bobby, I think I can speak for you when I say I am so glad that I am not wearing the uniform of America right now, because, man, I wouldn't know whether I was coming or going. I'm hearing people, say that, I got to get out of here. I'm talking about the military and stuff like that. And so it's going to affect our foreign policy. So I don't know what people think they're playing with, and I don't know if people think this stuff is funny, but a lot of the so-called patriots that we see, these flag wearing, which, by the way, is you don't even supposed to do. You're never supposed to put a flag on your body, period, as a body piece. So when he wrapped himself up in a flag, you and I both know you do not do that. Not do that. But all these flag wrapping people and paramilitary folks, they love to wear the stuff, Bobby, that you and I hated to put on, right? It's like, get this Kevlar off my head, But they love to put on this stuff because they don't have to. They don't have to sit in a plane and and fly, with all this stuff on and do whatever it is. But at the end of the day, they're going to be the last ones, man, to raise their right hands. Yep. The last ones. Yep. Those are the jokers that go and get on the police force and do all kind of illegal stuff, in some of the small towns and stuff. So yeah, I'm glad you talked about foreign policy with all the stuff that's going on. I know it's not the most exciting subject to talk about, but I'm gonna tell you, man, I think right now we are really, really in some foreign policy, in a bad foreign policy situation. I think it's only gonna get worse.
And I use the example I did just to show, like, when it comes to American interests, is what matters the most in terms of foreign policy. That's why I gave the example of Iraq and our eventual invasion into Iraq, because war was never declared by Congress regarding the Persian Gulf War. So our eventual invasion into Iraq, later on into Afghanistan, and the cost to the American economy, which was trillions to carry on that war, which took on a new life of its own when 9/11 happened. It predates 9/11. It goes back to around that time because of not only Osama bin Laden, but also to Saddam Hussein being in office during that time, and the chaos that he created. So American foreign policy is going to always be involved when it comes to whatever we think our interests are in democracy. And people have, say we got to get out of these wars, got to get out of these other countries' affairs. Sorry, that is the role we took on after World War II as the world leader. If you don't want to be a leader anymore, you don't accept the role. We've accepted the role since World War II. So whether we like it or not, and it's been Korea, Vietnam, Persian Gulf War, you name it. All these other conflicts we've got ourselves involved in, it's been quote unquote in the name of democracy. And so now when people have forgotten about this, they've forgotten about why we get involved in all these other countries' affairs. Hey, man, when you're now all of a sudden retreating from that, these other countries and these other areas that already don't like us and have called us the great Satan, or have called into question our affairs from the very beginning, all you're doing is angering those people more. And you're angering little factions that can create havoc all over the place. When we don't have allies, when we have allies that retreat from us, I use this analogy. A lion is considered the king of the jungle, right? A lion one-on-one against a buffalo is in trouble if that lion gets a hold of him, right? But a herd of buffalo, if you are a lion and you go into a herd of buffalo trying to take one out, they can turn around and they can kill that lion. A lion crossing a body of water with crocodiles in it, that king of the jungle can get got. So it's things like that where people have to understand you need your allies. You can't take on the world by itself. This nonsense that we're doing is also sending a signal to China that just take Taiwan. Go ahead and take Taiwan back. If you're going to do this for Russia, take Taiwan. And then you're inviting another conflict there. So, it's the ramifications are huge, and people need to wake up and realize that we're in dangerous times. We're vulnerable right now to attack because we're such a divided nation. And understand that Russian propaganda is out here purposely to divide us. And when you start consuming it and basically regurgitating it out as some form of foreign policy, the after effects are extremely dangerous on all of us as people. It puts us all in danger, not just the groups that you like, because we know when we swore to defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic, it included groups that don't like us. It included groups that we don't like, or that sort of thing. But you still have your rights under the Constitution to do what you do. And understanding that a lot of people who fought for this right, they look like us. Our grandfathers, our great grandfathers, our uncles, etc. Any women that that joined the military, they're included in all of this. People from other foreign lands that you're now questioning whether or not they can be considered true Americans because their parents weren't born here. We've discussed that before on citizenship. These are the people that have defended this country for the rights that we enjoy right now as Americans. And for us now to take this, what appears to be, we don't need y'all type of approach is extremely dangerous. And we just need to all wake up and realize that this is nothing to play with. That's really what I want to get to.
Absolutely, brother. Well said. Couldn't be said better. And Bobby, before we close it out, we spoke about Putin and we talked about propaganda. You and I both know as veterans, usually the very first act of war is propaganda. Usually from our PSYOP units, our psychological operation units. They start just putting all the propaganda out there before troops ever hit the ground. And so I think that's what is happening with Putin and America. Putin is not going to be happy. He's not going to be satisfied until he get the old Soviet Union back.
He said that numerous times. That's his goal.
That's what his goal is. And this man has been in a cyber war with the United States. They have penetrated every single possible election that everyone that they wanted to, every election that they wanted to penetrate. They have, and as you know, just recently we've called back our policy on doing the same thing to them, right, with this new administration. And so I just want to say that is just something to think about with Russia. They're already at war with us, and Putin is setting up for the big war, where lives are at stake. But right now, it is definitely the cyber piece. But I want to just comment real quick on the Zelensky Trump situation. Just one last time, there was no doubt that was rehearsed. There was many norms that was broken by the vice president and the president and all of that stuff. So it was definitely rehearsed. But this is what people used to mean, when they talk about, toxic masculinity. That's the greatest example of toxic masculinity that I can think of. These guys are so big, they're so bad, they're so whatever. But I promise you, with both of us being veterans, if you drop a fake smoke grenade or something there, those guys will find a way, no matter how fat they are, they will find a way to squeeze up underneath, underneath a couch or something, But I say that people wonder, how are we going to pay for these tariffs? Right? How are we going to pay? How are we going to pay for, the Trump administration being able to boast that they got the budget they got the debt down to this or that and the other? I just want to tell people something, and you and I both know this, Bobby, is that wars are profitable.
Yes.
And I'm just going to leave it at that. War, if you're wondering how, first of all, Bobby, you know that you and I have talked about Project 2025, and right here on this local lookout, we spotlighted Agenda 47 every single episode that we did when we first created this, all the way up to the election, basically, and for this podcast. And so I just want to say it one more time: wars are profitable. They can pay for a lot of stuff, and so that's just we just got to understand that is just the way that it is. And so, and I think the last thing, Bobby, I wanted to say on that was, I think Donald Trump really, really, really want to be a wartime president.
Yes.
We know his biggest nemesis, the man that he is the most jealous of in all the worlds of the world, is Barack Hussein Obama.
Yes, sir.
Barack Hussein Obama is a wartime president, and all these other presidents of wartime, and he want that. He want to be able to do that because everything this man loved, he was terrible at. So he loved sports, he loved football and that kind of thing. And there's not an athletic bone in his body. I don't care if he played golf all day long. Okay, I'm not going to sit around and talk about whether golf is a sport or not. I'm not going to do that because I know there's a lot of golf. But hey, it's got a ball, it's got something you hit it with, so it's a sport. But at the end of the day, so is bowling. So I'm not a golfer, but I'm not, I live in a golf community, so I'll say that. So I can't be hating on golf. And the last thing, Bobby, is before we close it out, and before you close out your closing comments, is Americans' exceptionalism, right? We, like you said, we want to feel like, I think American exceptionalism to some people, to a lot of people, means that we want to be alone, right? We want to be on an island. Well, like I said, yours and my military experience know that, boy, you if you think you want to be alone, if you think you want to just not have anybody, kick everybody out, don't help nobody around the world, don't do anything, I just think that we're about to see the real definition. Because we know what they're saying coded when they say DEI. We know what they're codedly saying. Right. But I think we're also about to see the code for what American exceptionalism have really meant for a lot of people. Great show, Bobby, man. Get ready to sum it up, close it out for us, brother. But great show as always.
Thank you. Once again, I thoroughly enjoy these moments, these opportunities to discuss these issues. One thing of note before I close it out, the so-called mineral deal that we're talking about with Ukraine. My question for something like that is, who's going to be enriched by it? What company because we know it's going to be somebody that he will have benefit along with himself. Because a lot of people don't realize dictators get rich by naturalizing resources. They're taking money, they're capitalizing on money making opportunities, right? Which is what the presidency is not designed for, right? So that's another thing that people just don't calculate in the whole thing. But I'll leave it right there. Where that stands
sounds like another Civics 101 to me.
It's another Civics 101. And there's so much, again, we talked about this before with them flooding the zone. They've thrown so much stuff out there at one time that you can spend an hour on one topic if you wanted to. Yeah. There's so much we haven't even talked about. We'll get to it another time. But again, I just want to thank you again, Rodney, for these opportunities to talk about these issues. Black mental health, we had earlier today, is something that is extremely important. And so these topics blend over into all the stressors that we have to deal with.
Yes, sir.
But we'll close it out from there. Again, you can catch Local Lookout with Rodney and Bobby the first Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. So until next time, we'll be on the lookout. Rodney Butler, thank you again, brother, for another outstanding show. God bless everyone. Pisces season, baby.
Pisces
Birthday
season.
has been in effect. We good.
Be good, Bobby. Peace, brother.
All right. Peace.
Don't forget to check us out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Do you have show ideas or want to be on the show? Shoot us an email at blackmansroundtable@gmail.com. And please follow us on Facebook.